In the mid-14th century, a single event reshaped the entire course of human history, the Black Death. It transformed economies, broke old systems, and pushed Europe toward the modern world. But what if it never happened? What if Europe continued unchanged? This is the alternate timeline of what if the Black Death never happened. A scenario that may change everything you thought you knew about history. Before the Black Death, Europe was slowly expanding. Populations grew, cities grew, and feudalism still ruled society. Life was divided into rigid layers. Noble families held power, peasants worked the land, and merchants were only beginning to rise. In short, Europe was stable, predictable, and firmly locked in its old systems. In our real history, the Black Death caused massive social and economic change. But in the alternate timeline, none of that happens. Population keeps rising, cities keep expanding, and Europe begins moving toward a very different future. Historically, the sudden lack of workers raised wages and improved conditions. But in a world without the Black Death, labour remains abundant. This means wages stay low, peasants remain tied to the land, economic reforms are delayed for centuries. Europe becomes a place with plenty of people, but very little incentive to innovate. In our timeline, labour shortages weakened feudal lords and gave peasants more freedom. But without that pressure, feudalism stays intact, lords keep their power, social mobility stays low. Europe may begin to resemble a long-lasting medieval system, stable, familiar, and resistant to change. The Black Death shook people's belief in old explanations, indirectly helping spark new thinking, the Renaissance. But without that shock, intellectual change slows dramatically. Possible consequences. The Renaissance arrives 50 to 100 years later. Scientific curiosity grows more slowly. Innovation remains limited. A world without the Black Death is a world with less creativity, less questioning, and slower progress. European exploration required strong trade networks, new technology, and ambitious merchants. But in an unchanged feudal system, merchants remain weak. As a result, Columbus-style voyages may happen decades later. Long-distance expeditions may be rare. European global dominance becomes uncertain. The world map we know today could look very different. Part of the energy behind the Reformation came from people questioning traditional authority. Without the Black Death shaking society, religious institutions may stay much stronger. Europe might remain unified under one religious authority, delaying, or even preventing, the Protestant Reformation. The Industrial Revolution depended partly on the need to replace human labour with machines. In our timeline, that need eventually became urgent. But in the alternate world, abundant labour removes that pressure. Possible outcome. Industrialisation arrives 50 to 150 years later. Britain may not lead the world. Global power shifts dramatically. Humanity enters the modern age much, much slower. Without social upheaval, peasants gain fewer rights. Society becomes more rigid. Short-term stability, long-term stagnation. A Europe without the Black Death might be safer, but far less innovative. The Black Death was a tragedy, but it also reshaped the world. Without it, Europe might remain traditional, slow-moving, and divided. Our modern world, science, exploration, technology, and social change may have arrived centuries later. This alternate timeline shows that history is shaped not only by triumphs, but by how humanity responds to crisis. Sometimes, even the darkest moments push the world forward. Thank you for watching this far. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to get more interesting information.